So combining an active life, meaning the dimensions of physical, intellectual, emotional, social, all the kind of engagements that we want to have in this life. And the other part is basically when we say the peace or the shanti, always be happy in life. So that is where the dimension of freedom comes, the liberation. When we say liberation, it's all about freedom from the systematic, mental, personal constraints that individuals that we all face. So one side is basically the active life, other side is basically the peace and freedom that we all seek in life. So we can easily say that the holistic framework of our personal growth comprises of combining the active life along with the freedom and happiness that we want to have in life. So in this modern world, this dynamic balance is very much needed, because it is very vital for combating the kind of stress that we all undergo in life, and also to reclaim the autonomy. It's very much needed. In the Shruti Vakyam, we can say the Pravritti Nivritti Marga, the paths of Pravritti and Nivritti. So the Pravritti is the active life. It is all about integrating the physical agility, walking to exercising to undergoing the daily routines to whatever it takes to maintain the vitality, combined with the creative, active, mental, emotional, intellectual participation, including staying curious, becoming inquisitive, learning new skills, learning new things, engaging with surroundings. Not only confined to that social dimension, including the rituals that we do, the japa sadhanas, the chantings, the repetitions of mantra. It's an active mental engagement that brings a lot of inner focus. Even the swadhyaya, the learning that one has to undergo. Forget about the aparavidya. Aparavidya meaning the learning that we undergo to seek the scientific knowledge about the world, and the paravidya, knowing more about oneself. So that comes through the dimension of liberation. What is that liberation? Liberation is all about breaking free from the limiting societal conditioning and the mental clutters. So the Paravidya is more about seeking the inner truth, more about aligning one's life with genuine purpose rather than arbitrary societal kind of a conditioning and meeting the expectations. So these both dimensions need to be there, the active participation and the dimension of the liberation or the freedom. See, that is why we do a lot of actions in the world, right? Atyantika dukkha nivritti, and we feel that we can do a lot of things to make us happy, and at the same time we don't want to be miserable in life. Active life and the inner freedom, both are very relevant in this modern AI tech driven world, because the lifestyles are changing and we all are undergoing a kind of a passive routine, even risking the health, especially the modern generation. And the mental resilience, how will we provide enough buffers against the stress that is created by the world, or how we can understand that we are in a rat race. How will we break out of the rat race? How will we cleverly step out from, or step away from the consumption, step away from the possession oriented world, or how one can limit or put a cap to the social validations, because the world is all about comparisons and contrast. Or sometimes we all think that how I can look impressive in this world, what is that it makes me to show impressed in this world or make others impressive. So that's where active life is important. Liberation, the freedom that we want, both are imperative in this world. And if one is averse to this liberation, when I say averse, not understanding this dimension of the freedom, always got stuck at the plane of active life and not understanding that this dimension of liberation is valid. If somebody is belittling it, if somebody is averse to that, then what happens is basically suffering will become dominant. That is very, very imperative. Suffering has to be imperative. So what happens is only the worldly activities, then suffering is sure. Suffering will become dominant. So for addressing that suffering, the liberation must become a part and parcel of the life. Otherwise, what happens is the suffering will ultimately push all of us to start looking at the dimension of the liberation. And these two dimensions are very much needed. It is irrespective of all diversities that we see in human beings, irrespective of the race, irrespective of the religion, irrespective of the social status, irrespective of the culture, irrespective of the age, irrespective of the gender, irrespective of the qualification, irrespective of any sort of an economic situation. Everyone has to be liberated. This is the central goal. And this is the central identity, because it's very logical to understand that we have a consciousness within us, and that is demanding the completion, that is demanding the wholesomeness, that is demanding the fulfillment, that force is demanding the contentment, and that force inherent nature is Shanti or Purnada or wholesomeness or completeness. Whether you are illiterate or educated, everyone's common destination is that liberation. And we all undergo the internal conflict every time. Because this internal conflict creates tension. Tension between what? Tension between the active life and the liberation. The pravritti nivarti marga. So one side is basically the consciousness, the Purushan who is seeking liberation. And by nature, in fact, consciousness is not seeking the liberation. In fact, the tension, the so-called mind has to get equipped with the knowledge so that the real peace will evolve in a person. Because the nature of consciousness is what? It is the completion. It is the Purnatva. So this tension, the so-called mind is seeking this liberation. That tension is not sometimes allowing to understand that I do have the profound dimension of that perfection. And one side is the nature, the Prakriti, where with its inherent physical and biological tendencies that are basically, or we can say that engagement is indifferent to the liberation. That dimension is basically to fulfill the pleasures or engaged around the pleasure seekingness from the Prakriti, pleasure seekingness from the world. Both are inseparable because that this dimension of activeness in the world and liberation. But the problem is basically, are we be able to balance this? That is where the Shruti says, Divido hi vedokto dharma. There are two ways to do the dharmam. What are those? Pravritti lakshano, nivritti lakshana cha. Pravritti nivritti margam. Jagataha sthiti karanam praninam sakshad. Abhyudaya nisreyasaha hedu yasa dharmo. Brahmanadhyai varnibhihi ashramibhihi cha sreyortibhihi anuštiyamanaha. So the real existence of the world, the Jagadaha sthiti karanam praninam sakshad abhyudaya nisreyasaha hetu. So the real abhyudaya, the real upliftment, the real perfection of the human beings, all prani, and the existence, the real coexistence of these two are the reason for the individual's upliftment. Irrespective of the varnashrama dharmams, everybody has to do this, or everybody has to execute this. Anuštiyamana. So now it's very clear that these two paths are not conflicting. They both are interconnected rather than contradicting. So all of us must rely on the pravritti to thrive in this world, while nivritti brings the moral inner depth. Nivritti brings the energy to stabilize the pravritti. One has to practice nivritti internally while participating in pravritti that is external. That includes performing one's own daily duties, but with a detached and a focused mind. While one executes karma as karma yoga, what is happening is we are getting an avenue to eliminate the ego. We are getting an avenue to purify the mind. So in fact, karma yogam itself is a prescription for inculcating the nivritti, because the possession and the possessor, right? If you see, the purification of the mind without the play of ego, and this is what the demand of consciousness is, because that consciousness is inherently pure, perfect, wholesome. And while we execute the karma as karma yoga, so that the barrier, the so-called as the friction, the so-called as the tension that is created by the mind, which is called as ego, you are not giving a room for ego to grow. So through Karma Yogam, the Purnatvam is also coming. Nivarti becomes implied there. Because the psychological binding or the impurities of karma are getting neutralized, because the ego is not allowed to come into picture, because that neutralization is happening. Neutralization happening meaning what? The false sense of doership is ignored. The agency is ignored here. Agency itself is non-existent. That's where Bhagavan says you do the karma as nishkama karma. Your actions getting executed as nishkama karma. So now why I am taking you through this route is basically the karma sanyasa yogam. Like all of us, Arjuna asked a question. Tell me precisely what should I do? If knowledge is superior, then why should I get into the actions? I can directly become a sannyasi. I can get rid of these things because I need freedom, I need peace. So it is all about freedom. Freedom is not where we live actually. It is coming from how we live. It is not from where we live and what we do. It is all from how we live and how or what is the attitude that we have while we live in this world. See, for example, people around us say that I will become happy. I will after retirement I will start reading these scriptures. I will be happy after I retire, because right now I am in the stream of busy life. I will be free. I will be happy. I will be having enough time to reflect, contemplate, etc. I will be happy after I get retired. I will become more spiritual after making more money. Right now, this time is very important for me, because next 10 years are the core time for my professional growth. Making money is important. Maybe I will start looking into that after 10 years. Or someone says that I will become more socially active. I will do a lot of service after becoming successful in life, because right now I don't have much money or I don't have much time. So here Bhagavan Krishna says you are basically postponing freedom, and you have chosen a path of suffering. If you feel that the margam of nivarti has to be incorporated after some time in life, then you yourself is attracting the so-called as suffering, and that suffering will teach you to liberate. This is going to happen. You yourself is postponing the freedom, and you have chosen a path of suffering. In one of the Zen stories, there comes a young monk. That monk asks his master, "Hey master, when will I attain the enlightenment?" So here the master says, when you stop asking where enlightenment is. So now the monk asks, shouldn't I leave the village where I am living now? Shouldn't I leave the village? So now the master, with a smile, he says that if your mind comes with you, that village will also come with you. So the problem is mind. That mind is overpowering and trying to take control. So we all are constantly engaged in the physical and mental activities. And we want peace, like this monk. But the problem is basically we all are heavily addicted to the perks of the material life. So Arjuna also faces the same problem here. See, if you see in the chapter 4, Bhagavan praised the wisdom of knowledge and sacrifice, and ended at the end of 4th chapter with the point that you start fighting. You fight with this knowledge. So that's where the Arjuna gets confused. Now he asks, should I become a monk? Should I become a monk and meditate in a cave? Or should I go to a battlefield and fight? Give me a straight answer. What is really important for me? So that's where we all have to understand the real transformation is iterative. If you see Gita as a Shastra, all these chapters are giving insights. And these chapters, these insights, turned over from multiple angles before it gets settled. So Arjuna's question is also fair, because you are talking about these paths and now you tell me what is really beneficial for me, what is good for me. Question is also fair, because Bhagavan Krishna has been praising these two opposite paths where we feel that they are seemingly opposite. It is not seemingly opposite, they are not opposite also. But these two paths, if you see chapter 2 and 3, primarily mentioned about the Sankhya Yoga, or the knowledge of the Jnana Yoga, the knowledge of the self, the path of knowledge, the path of renunciation, path of withdrawal. And in the 3rd and 4th again blend of Karma Yoga, the path of skillful detached action, staying daily engaged in one's own duty. So now Arjuna wants to know which one is the path for me. Give me one answer, not a menu, right? If you go to a restaurant, what is there for me to eat? If you get a menu, we will take some time, because lot amount of options are. But whereas, if you ask the person who is serving, what is there for breakfast? And that person cannot tell the entire items in the menu. So what is there for me to get a good breakfast, a healthy breakfast? 1 or 2 or 3 choices. So similarly, Arjuna is saying, don't give me the complete list, different paths. I just need the correct path. So that's where the chapter 5 comes as Bhagavan's response to Arjuna, that will bring clarity. And it also culminates in one of the Gita's most important philosophical moves. They basically says that the two paths are not actually opposites at all. Chapter 5, Karma Sanyasa Yogam, literally means the yoga of renunciation of action. Yoga of renunciation of action. Karma Sanyasa Yoga. So now chapter 5 will deeply define what renunciation means. It is less about what we do and more about the inner posture we should hold while we do the work. It has nothing to do with what you do, what type of work you should do and all. It's all about while you do the work, what should be the inner posture? What should be the thing that I should hold while doing it? And renunciation is not about abandoning action. It is all about abandoning the attachment to the fruits of action while we continue to act. So it's very clear. It's not about running away. It is not about abandoning the action. It's all about abandoning the attachment of the fruits of action. A modern stressed corporate employee took a break and visited a Himalayan saint, Himalayan monk. And this employee, this person, asked to the monk, what is the secret of inner peace? What exactly is the secret of inner peace? So here the saint says that give up all your desires. Give up all your desires and you go to a remote forest and meditate in silence for 10 years, next 10 years. You give up all desires, you give up your job, you go to a forest and meditate for 10 years. Oh, this man replies, this sounds like, exactly like a retirement. Is there a way to get the inner peace without this 10 years of forest meditation? Tell me that. Because the 10-year going to forest looks like a retirement. But I need peace. What is the way to get the inner peace without this 10 years of forest meditation? Though it sounds as a joke, we all want inner peace, but we need to get this peace instantly delivered, express delivered in 7 minutes, right? We all live in this express delivery age. And be mindful, because we still want to hold on to our Netflix and stock portfolios and all those things, but at the same time we need peace. Correct? So though it sounds as a joke, we don't need to spend 10 years in a forest. One should learn how to sit. In the corporate employee's case, he must be facing a lot of meetings, will be sitting in the boardroom. One should know, while sitting in the boardroom, how the sage who is sitting in the Himalaya sits. The way the sage sits in the cave, how fully present, doing the work, not expecting much on the outcome. It is not walking away, because we cannot run away from life. So not walking away, but not gripping the outcome. This is very important. Because walking away, as Bhagavan says, walking away is another form of attachment. Because walking away will dress up as a kind of a virtue. It will dress up as a virtue. Sometimes, people feel that, why I am living, why should I, get into this rat race, no. Because walking away or running away is another form of attachment. It will dress up as a virtue. So the real teaching here is, you stay in the pravritti, you keep the stock, you keep the Netflix, you keep the job, you keep the family, but change the relationship to the outcome. Don't renounce everything, or don't chase everything. Don't renounce everything, or don't chase everything. Because in both scenarios, we will not get a clean exit when you renounce everything or chase everything. So throughout the fourth chapter, Bhagavan told about the knowledge in such a way that what happened is basically Arjuna found that this is contradictory. So when he was told to follow the Karma Yoga, large amount of verses talked about the renunciation, talked about the total renunciation. And the fourth chapter name itself is Jnana Karma Sanyasa, the renunciation of karma by knowledge. So if the knowledge is supreme, if the knowledge is the ultimate end, and one having gained it and karma is given up, then is it not meaningful to seek the knowledge straight away instead of doing or instead of getting into karma, instead of getting into action? Why can't I get directly into the knowledge? This is the analogy Arjuna is using here. If renunciation of action is the core, if renunciation of the action is the core, and this renunciation has to take place by knowledge, why not I take the lifestyle of a sannyasi that is meant for gaining knowledge? Why can't I do that directly? See, there are two types of sannyasa that is accepted in the Shastra. One type of sannyasa is the renunciation of action through knowledge. The knowledge is already there. This type of sannyasa is called as the Vidvat sannyasa. The sannyasam of a Vidwan, a master. And what is the attribute here? That master is already having the knowledge, already having the self-knowledge. The sannyasam of a Vidwan is something like the knowledge is already there. Knowledge of the self is there. What is that knowledge? That self is not the doer. And by taking the lifestyle of a sannyasi or a Vidwan like this, will release from the duties, because there is no duty to be executed. And the other sannyasa is basically as a lifestyle where one renounces the duties in order to pursue the knowledge. This is called as Vividisha sannyasa. So here it is very easy. One should understand that one can adopt the lifestyle of a sannyasam while continue to do or remain as a householder. The other one who is already having the knowledge can also go to that sannyasa. Both paths are different, slightly different. See, already there is a knowledge in one scenario. The other one, with whatever built we have, the pursue or the urge to gain that knowledge. So Vidvat sannyasam, basically the Vidwan, one who knows. Vividisha sannyasam is basically the desire to know. The difference is one who knows already, the other one is having the desire to know that. So now the question, logically, if I ask this question, where is Arjuna standing? Can Arjuna directly go to the Vidvat sannyasam or the Vividisha sannyasam? So Arjuna's knowledge is nowhere near to the Vidvat sannyasam, because he has to execute the karma, and the path of renunciation while doing the karma is needed, and at the same time getting this knowledge. I hope you all are with me. The verse number 1 of 5th chapter, Adhyayam 5, Karma Sanyasa Yogam. Arjuna Uvacha Sanyasam Karmanam Krishna Punaryogam Cha Shamsasi. yachreya etayoregam tanme bruhi sunischitam. Arjuna uvaja, Arjuna is saying, Sanyasam karmanam Krishna. Sanyasam karmanam, the renunciation of action. Krishna puna yogam cha samsasi. And you praise again about the karma yogam. Yat shreya etayo ekam. That which is better out of these two. Egam tad, that one. Me bruhi, tell me. Sunischitam, tell me definitely out of these two, whether renunciation of the action or executing action as a karma yogi. Tell me out of this which one is better for me. So you have commented about the Sanyasa yogam, that is the yoga of renunciation, and the karma yogam, the yoga of action. Of these two, which is better one? Tell me conclusively. And between these two, which is better for me to attain the liberation? Because we have to go back to the original understanding, action and the liberation. So what is really better for me to attain the liberation? Verse number 2. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Sanyasa Karma Yogascha Nishreyasa Karavubhau Tayostu Karma Sanyasad Karma Yogo Vishishyate. Sanyasaha Karma Yogascha Nishreyasa Karau Ubhau Tayostu Karma Sanyasad Karma Yogo Vishishyade. So renunciation of the action and the performance of action. Sanyasa Karma Yoga. One is the renunciation of action and the other one is the performance of action. Right. So Nishreyasa Karau Ubhau, both leads to liberation. Both renunciation of action and performance of the action of yoga, both lead to liberation. But of these two, the performance of action, tayostu, but of these two, karma sannyasat, then the renunciation of action, karma yoga vishishyate, performance of action is better. Performance of action as yoga. You execute karma as karma yoga, that is better than renunciation of action. Whether a family man or a sannyasi, one should inquire what? One should inquire who am I? And realize the nature of I. In one case, that knowledge is there. The other case, through the actions, one should get into the mode of self-inquiry. Who am I? And how can I realize that true nature? The self within. So whether you work in the world or not, both will be a sannyasi. Yogam itself is a sannyasam. Yogam itself is a sannyasam. True yogi is simultaneously a sannyasi because they act without ego. So now it is very clear. Both paths dissolve the illusion of ego. So now very, very simple. Let us simplify it. What is renunciation? Actions done without attachment is a form of renunciation. And as a grihasthasrami, whatever actions we are supposed to do that not by not getting affected with the outcomes of the action by not allowing the ego to play. So the actions will become an avenue for renounce, because there is no attachment gathered out of the action. Verse number 3. Jnaya sa nitya sannyasi yo na dveshti na kankshati nirdvando hi mahabaho sugham bandhad pramuchyate. Jnaya saha nitya sannyasi should be known as that person. The nitya sannyasi is always a renunciate. Yaha na dveshti na kankshati, the one who doesn't hate. Kankshati, one who doesn't long, one who doesn't have the desires. Nirdvandvaha hi mahabaho. So, hi Arjuna, understand that that person is free from the opposites, not getting affected by the opposites. Sukham bandhad pramuchyati, effortlessly from the bondage that person is released. So who is a real sannyasi? We will see all these verses are very profound. Please understand that renunciation is the first step for realization. So who is a renunciate? The one who neither hates nor desires is an eternal sannyasi who is free from the pair of opposites, sukha, dukkha. So though now, by merely changing your lifestyle, you cannot become a sannyasi. Who is a real sannyasi? The real sannyasi is a person who neither hates nor longs for the things. He is to be understood as a sannyasi. So sannyasam is not an escapism. Sannyasam is not giving up the duties. In fact, the grahasthasrama dharmam is sometimes better than a sannyasi if we all do that dharmam properly. Because we have to do a lot of duties. Being a grahasthasrami, raising the family, taking care of the family, taking care of the society, even taking care of the sannyasis, because the sannyasis cannot live without the grahasthasramis. Because they don't work, they don't earn anything, so the grahasthasramis should also feed the sannyasis. Grahasthasramis should do the duties. In fact, it is an asrama, grahastha asrama, and the home is supposed to be an asrama. Nivritta ragasya graham tapovana. Your graham should be an asrama. That's why it's called as a grahastha asrami. It's not a grahastha asrama. And if you see the sampradayam, brahmacharyam, grahasthasramam, vanaprastham, sannyasam. And sannyasam is something that will happen through the gaining of knowledge. Chadurtha asrama kale swayameva bhavishyati. Once the knowledge is there, it will happen automatically. Chadurtha asrama kalam will happen automatically. But one thing we need to understand, the choice of the path, directly jumping into the Vidvat sannyasam or the Vidisha sannyasam, the choice of the path depends on the nature. The choice of the path depends on the mental makeup of the person. The choice of the path depends upon the inner preparedness and the maturity. And asrama dharmam, sannyasa ashramam is not something like avoiding things. You can avoid if there is nothing prescribed. For a real sannyasi, for a Vidvat sannyasi, there is nothing to be done. There is no need of getting into the grahasthasrama dharma. That is fine. But for a grahasthasrami, through the way of karma yogam, you also reach to the state of sannyasa. By not avoiding the things, but by managing and strengthening through the self-knowledge. And here, nirdvando hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchyade. One should have the mastery over likes and dislikes. One should not get affected to the opposites. Imposed adjustment to the opposite should not happen, whereas the inherent adaptation to the opposite should happen. Because these dualities will come, and these dualities will become an obstacle for the happiness. So, overcoming the dualities, adapting to the opposites, mastery over likes and dislikes, and not having hatredness to the people or object, na kamkshadi, na dveshti. So, if we keep thinking that we will become happy in future, then we are generating the expectations. We are shifting from the present. Awareness is drifted from the present to future. So here, the word Nitya Sannyasi, the one who operates from that self-knowledge, the one who operates from that core, and that person is free from the opposites, free from likes and dislikes. That person is having a balanced mind. There is no bondage because no dualities are appreciated. Sukham bandhad pramuchyade. So, effortlessly, that person will be free from bondage because there is no duality. Mind is free. So, whether you live at home or whether you are in the market or whether you are at work, it doesn't matter. What matters is basically the attitude while we do the work. And sannyasam is basically a mindset. We will see the rest of the definitions of sannyasam later. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyade Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.